What's up, everyone? This is the Tinman with the Resistance, and it's Beer 30. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance. So, let's pick up where John Connor left off. Why we need a prophet. End of days. Jesus is within us. Be Christ-like in rebelling against the totalitarian governmental system that seeks to destroy us. Why is any of this remotely relevant? Atheists, Satanists, Wiccans, basically any non-Christian will probably say, oh, we're not in the end days. It's all just propaganda. It's the establishment using the, quote, prophecies in the book of Revelations as a blueprint for their actions. Which may be true. It may also be true that God said it would play out this way, knowing that they would take this blueprint and run with it. Something to think about. But again, why is any of this remotely important? Because whether or not you are Christian, Muslim, traditional Jew, Zionist, Buddhist, monk, Wiccan, Satanist, whatever the fuck, I don't give a big goddamn. Okay? Regardless of where you fall in the spectrum of belief or lack thereof, we cannot ignore the reality that such blueprints are being followed. Whether by the design of the Almighty or some omnipotent force beyond our control, or just man's sheer laziness and go, oh, this is a good idea, let's do this. Right? It doesn't matter. What matters is that we are following this blueprint. That humanity, whether globalists or just people like you and myself, are following this blueprint. And we can't say that we're not. Why can't we say that we're not? Because we're going along with it. Okay? The Bible said, whether you believe it or not, that there would be social decay. There would be the decay in morals and godlessness and all this other shit. Okay? And we see this happening each and every day. It happened with the legalization of gay marriage, and now you have the transgender identity issue going on. You have the picketing for pedophilia to be legalized. You have the growing popularity in the ideas of incest. Even in some degrees, bestiality is actually gaining traction as well. Why is this? Because those in power are pushing it, and we are riding the bandwagon. And we are doing so for various reasons. Either we're for one, if not all of these things. We are in a position where we feel powerless to stop such things, provided we stand against them. Or we're just indecisive and just going with the flow. That's what it comes down to. They're counting on us being in one of these three categories. Either for it, giving up, or just not giving a shit. Okay? Isn't it what George Carlin said? That's what they want from us. Obedient workers, just going with the flow, being a willful slave to the system because that's the way the system's set up and we're too scared or too complacent to change it. I mean, that's pretty much the basis, isn't it? So why does Connor talk about the things that he talks about? Why does Drummer talk about all this spiritual stuff? Because it is a spiritual war. Whether or not there is a higher power or not is irrelevant. Okay? This is based in spirituality. The idea that a belief, whether right, wrong, or somewhere in the middle, is a very powerful thing. Okay? And let's face facts. Every war in modern to ancient history has been based and centered around the ideas of the omnipotent, invisible man in the sky. Okay? The Holy Wars, the Crusades, Muslim extremism, the Christian persecution, and witch hunts. Just to name a few. I mean, I could go on and on with this, I'm sure. World War II. There's another good one. Connor's touched on this a few times, whether the goal was to eliminate Jews as a whole or just eliminate the Zionists. It was based on the premise that this religious belief system posed a threat. No matter in which context you look at it, whether in traditional context, the greatest story never told context, or somewhere in the middle, that is the whole fucking premise. The elimination of a threat or a proposed threat that held a particular religious ideology. And that's what it always comes down to, is belief. The power of belief is a very powerful thing. Let's not mince words on this. Why? Because regardless of what we choose to believe in, even as atheists, we all believe in something. The atheists believe and lean on science and logical reasoning. Christians lean on the idea of life after death, an all-powerful creator and protector. The Buddhists believe in spiritual enlightenment and growth. The Muslims, kind of an off branch of Christianity, whether or not you choose to admit this or not. Same basic stories, same basic ideas and whatnot, just with some minor differences. Okay? It all centers around one thing: spiritual and intellectual growth. Now, most of these religious ideologies out there today don't promote the idea of spiritual and intellectual growth. They promote the idea of being blind followers, following an ideology without question, even if said ideology has a billion fucking holes in it. And that's what these globalists count on. Again, mindless obedience. Right? Because the globalists don't want us to think. They don't want us to question. I know a lot of people don't exactly respect the LDS Church. And, there's a lot of reasons. And I understand where a lot of people are coming from in this regard. But one cannot deny the fact that the Mormon Church not only rests on the ideology, but was founded on the ideology and principle of asking questions to the, quote, unanswerable questions. and seeking answers to those questions. Something most mainstream religions today refuse to do. Right? And it's worth looking into. I'm not saying convert to Mormonism. By all means, do as you please. I'm just sitting there remarking on how amazing it is that you have all these religious ideologies that refuse to think outside the box. They just put the box on their head and go, "Oh, I don't want to see it. Don't want to see it. This is the truth. This is the truth. I don't want to. I don't want to question anything. It's the truth. God's will be done. It's all a mystery. God's work is a mystery." Okay. When the answers are probably out there and are more than likely relatively simple. And yet they'll bet on groups like the Mormons for believing in asking questions and receiving revelation and getting answers to those questions. Oh my God, can we see the oxymoron in all this? Can we see the problem in the push of submit to mindless obedience? Wasn't that what Christ was against? It's per what Connor's talking about. He was all about give to God what is God's, return to Caesar what is Caesar's. The ultimate hippie that understood that ignoring the value of their monetary system would cause the system's collapse. Which is true. It is very true. And such an ideology is a very dangerous one, no matter how you look at it. I mean, think about it. It was proposed a while back. The idea was proposed that being that Obama spent all these millions, if not billions of dollars on the Obamacare website promoting it and all this shit, when he could have just given each American a certain amount of money, which I think it was like $1 million to $2 million per person in America, in contrast to what he spent on building and promoting the Obamacare website. That would have been a very bad idea. Yeah, it would have made everybody rich, but here's the downside to that. It would have killed the establishment system. Okay? It would have killed the Federal Reserve. It would have killed the United States government. It would have killed stocks, bonds, and trades. It would have brought a fucking screeching halt to the economy as we know it. Because nobody would be working. We'd all be fucking rich sitting on our fucking asses. So nobody would be at the factories or the farms producing the goods. There would be no truck drivers, no train drivers, no pilots to transport the goods. There would be no stock people to stock the shelves for these goods. There would be no mechanics to work on the cars. There would be nobody to transport and sell the gas, so on and so forth. The economy would have died. You see how simple it is to actually collapse the system? You take one simple idea and you really think about it. Boom! Amazing what you can figure out when you really put your mind to it. That's just one example. So they don't want you thinking about these things. They don't want you to think. Look at me, I'm drunk off my fucking ass. And I just proposed to you numerous ideas and explanations that most people probably hadn't had cross their mind. And people are going, whoa, holy shit. And if you don't like what I'm saying, cheers to you. Go fuck yourself. Okay? Because I don't do this for the ratings. I'm not in this for a popularity contest, okay? I'm not doing this for the views. If you notice, our views are relatively low. And I don't give a shit, okay? Even though the account's monetized, that's not what we're about, okay? I could lose subscribers all fucking day. It doesn't mean a fucking thing to me. So long as these videos and what I or Connor or Drummer or anybody else says resonates with somebody, and that somebody takes what I said, opens the fucking books, goes on fucking line and researches and learns something, and maybe, just fucking maybe, picks up that ball and runs with it. Okay? That's why we do this shit. That's why we talk about these realities, whether religious, political, financial, or whatnot. Okay? Because these are all important factors that are at play. Okay? You get it now? I certainly fucking hope so, because I'm not done. The question is, where are we headed in this society? Is there going to be a rapture? Is Christ going to return? Is he going to be black? Is he going to be white? Okay, many people would argue, well, he was born in the Middle East, so he'll probably be of a darker skin. If not Muslim looking, probably more African looking. Okay, maybe. Some would argue him being a resurrected, glorified being, he is now perfect, without blemish, whatever, so he would probably be white, kind of like an unblemished lamb. Okay? Maybe. I don't know. I don't want to get into the dynamics of that. I really don't give a shit. Whether he's black, white, Hispanic, Chinese, whatever. Okay? He and Confucius could return in a fucking chariot comparing ideologies. I really don't give a shit. Okay? It's neither here nor there for me. What color he is, or any of that nonsense. It's not important to me. Okay? Is Jesus in all of us? Of course he is. Okay? Whether you believe he existed or he didn't, or whether you believe he was the Son of God or he wasn't, the idea, the principles, the things that he taught and believed are ingrained in us all, regardless of what religious background we subscribe to. All these things are ingrained in us. Okay? And to truly be, quote, Christ-like is to follow those teachings and those ideas. Don't be complacent about it. It was actually talked about in church today about being stagnant Christians, like one of the 7 churches was back in the time of the apostles. They became stagnant. They were happy where they were because they had no reason to move forward. They didn't have the drive. And that's where many Christians are at. They're lazy and complacent, which is what has given rise to ideologies propagated by people like Joel Osteen or John Hagee or Joseph Prince. The whole saved by grace means you accept Jesus Christ and you can do whatever the fuck you want and not be held accountable for it anymore because you've got a clean slate and the plate can never get dirty again no matter how many times you throw it in the mud. I don't get how that would work, but more power to you guys. Whatever. But you have these ideologies of laziness, which are designed to keep us down. And then you have conflicting ideologies. Some people teaching that the Trinity are 3 in 1. Others teaching that they're 3 separate beings. Some people believe that the rapture is going to be marked with key events to signal the second coming. Others believe it's going to be like totally out of fucking nowhere. You have these conflicting ideologies. Why? Because 1, they want to keep the people occupied and stupid, not asking questions. And 2, they want to push the idea that these things can happen and you won't see God if he exists. Therefore, they can introduce the idea of godlessness. Now, whether there is or isn't a God is irrelevant at this point. But if you can introduce the idea that if you can go from, yeah, Christ is going to descend in the clouds, all the Christians and all the dead are going to meet him in the clouds, and it's going to be a well-known thing, blah, blah, blah. If you can go from that to nobody's going to see Christ and everybody's just going to be gone, with leaving the unrighteous to walk the earth and their turmoil, you can go straight to the transition that there is no fucking God, and you can say that the vanishment of this high number of people, whether it's the majority of humanity or even a small number of humanity, it's still going to be a lot of people, you can figure, can be chopped up to any explanation. Nuclear holocaust, disease, war, alien abduction. You could throw out ideas all day long, and you can completely eliminate God and religion from the equation. And then you can introduce your society of godlessness and lack of morality and accountability, which is what we are moving towards, is a society of people who want to do things, such as homosexuality or incest or pedophilia or whatnot. Whether we like it or not, there are people who are for these things. And it'll probably happen. Hopefully not the pedophilia aspect, at least as far as I'm concerned, because that'd just be a big no-no. I am not about the forced rape of little kids. And as far as I'm concerned, no child can make that choice. I've said that time and time again to consenting adults. I don't give a shit. Whatever. Be gay. Fuck your relatives. Whatever. If you're two consenting adults, I don't give a goddamn. That's your fucking business. Just keep it away from me. Okay? That's you, not me. I don't have to deal with it. Okay? I don't give a shit. I'm complacent on that. Okay? I'll admit I'm complacent on that. I am neither for nor against. It's like, whatever. I don't give a shit. And I'll explain why in a minute. But these are the things that we are heading towards nonetheless. And what it's going to come down to is the fact that we are complacent. And I will admit that I, too, am complacent in this. Like I said, I don't give a shit about the homosexuality. What goes on in your bedroom is your own fucking business, so long as nobody gets hurt. And it's a victimless crime. Who am I to fucking judge you? Judge not lest you be judged. Okay? So yeah, I'm not gonna fucking say you can or can't do something. That's not my fucking right. I cannot sit there and say that you can or cannot do something because that's not my fucking right. I may or may not agree with what you're doing. Like people be like, well, what do you mean, Mr. Tinman? Okay. Well, let's just put it this way. People ask me how I view lesbian relationships. Apparently, in high definition, was not the correct answer. Okay? Now, another reason why I'm kind of in a state of complacency on this issue. In the beginning, you had the Garden of Eden. You had Adam and Eve in the garden, and God put a tree there. So don't eat from this tree. Okay? Now, it could have been like the government and made it so you can't eat this tree. He could have barred it off, or he could have taken the tree out, or even never put it there to begin with. Problem solved, right? No. He didn't do that. He allowed them to be able to make their choice. And I am firmly on board with that. Whether as a Christian or even just a human being, I am all for people making their own choices. These aren't my choices. They're somebody else's choices. Okay? I believe that everybody should have the right to choose for themselves as to whether or not they want to eat that particular fruit from that particular tree. Okay? And I don't think it's the government's place to tell you that you can't. Right? in regards to a, quote, victimless crime, okay? Like I said, what goes on between two consenting adults is hearsay to me, okay? Choose for yourself whether or not you want to eat that fruit, okay? But when it comes to hurting other people and innocence, oh yeah, I will rail against that shit all fucking day, okay? So I hope I've made myself clear in that. And that's where we are headed as a society, I think. But here's the kicker, okay? Though that's the idea and the society that's being proposed to us, it's going to be the society that introduces these ideas that all of humanity will be united in this freedom, whereas it will be the higher-ups, the select few, that will be entitled to these freedoms, and the rest of us will just be subjected to the will and whims of those who are, quote, above us. Yeah, makes a little more sense now, doesn't it? We can see where we're going in this society. Yeah, you may be privy to have your homosexual relationship or your incestuous relationship, and the law won't say anything against it, okay? But you won't be able to stop some pervert Zionist from coming into your house and taking and having sex with your infant child. And that's the world we're going to be heading into. Why? Because we're complacent and stagnant. I'll admit I am in that boat to a degree on certain issues. Other issues, like I said, like pedophilia, I will rail against till the day I die. But this is why. This is where we're headed. This is why. Now, is Christ going to return in a physical manifestation? Is it going to be a spiritual awakening where humanity wakes up and fights back? Or is it just going to be humanity decides they've had enough and starts using these ancient teachings to their advantage to topple over the corrupt system? Any of the three sounds good to me. I just look forward to the day that it happens. I don't think I got anything more to say on the matter. Take it and run with it however you want to fucking run with it. I don't care whether you like what I've said or you don't like what I've said. Especially considering I'm drunk off my ass. But nobody can deny that I've spoken a great deal of truth here and proposed a great many ideas of where we've been, where we are, and where we're going, and why. Right? Nobody can argue that there's been a lot of valid points made and that these points need to be looked into. So regardless of whether you're an atheist or Christian or this faith or that faith, look at what is being talked about. Okay? It's not just about the spiritual aspect. It's not just about the governmental aspect. It's not just about the financial or the police corruption or this or that. Okay? It's all integrated. It's all little bitty pieces piled together to make one big pile of shit. Okay? That's how the game is played. You're not going to have one character on the board. You're going to have a shit ton of little pieces. Okay? Some of which you're not going to expect, and you're going to get hit with moves that you didn't see coming, that you should have seen coming a mile away. I'm the Tinman with the Resistance. If you're watching this, you are the Resistance. Oh, and by the way, before anybody has a chance to sit there and go, oh, where's your anonymous flag? You don't support anonymous anymore? Right there. Got my anonymous flag, got my United States flag, I got the Tea Party flag. Why? Because we are the Worldwide Resistance Network. We back all ideologies. Even if we don't agree with them, we want everybody to come and work together to find a mutual ground for a mutual solution. Just wanted to make that clear before anybody tries to chop up that shit. Deuces.